It is now my honour, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our next distinguished speaker with a remarkable career in Irish politics. He served as the Prime Minister of Ireland, leading the country with integrity and dedication. He has been a committed friend of the Iranian people and resistance over the past few years, and he joins us here today. Please put your hands together and join me in a very warm welcome to Mr. Enda Kenny.
Could I ask the Irish delegation to get up here quickly? There's something you should know. Come on. Come on. I brought this with me for a reason. Come on, come up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You see, this is a delegation from Ireland. But this is the flag of the Ivory Coast in Africa. So I must be the first Irish person to represent the Ivory Coast. If you turn it the other way, and the green is at the flagpole, then it becomes the tricolour of our country. But this one is incorrect. Flagpole is here. It's orange, white and green. Ours is green, white and orange. So now you know, delegation from Ireland, it's always a surprise. Thank you. We've had a lot of speeches today and a lot of comments. I want to say that you are competing with a lot of other difficulties for attention globally. The planet's in trouble. Humanity itself is in danger. 26 million at the moment in the Sudan with the crisis of hunger. If at Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Hamas, Hezbollah, Lebanon, Syria with 1 million gone into the Lebanon, 3 million in the Jordan camps, 3.5 million in the camps in Turkey, Rohingyas, Uyghurs and so many others, all competing for attention from global leaders. We're very privileged to be here today with you, Miriam, for what you're doing in respect of Iran and the people of Iran. Our problem is not with the people, it's with the theocracy. The people of Iran are a welcoming people, a peace-loving people, and yet what's seen on Western television is never anything other than crowds of people supporting a theocratic dictator. America has prescribed that the difficulty internationally now is between autocracy and democracy. Well, nobody should underestimate the importance of this conference. And I'll tell you why. The issue is too critical. Iran is too big to ignore, too strategic to neglect, and too unpredictable to forget. The realism is critical in politics. And if you go back to your homes and your constituencies and your countries after this and do nothing, and you come back next year, it hasn't been a success. This regime has been around since the over 40, 50 years, since the 70s. And it's withstood all of that 8 years of war with Iraq, the decades of sanctions, the Green Movement of 2009, the Girls of Revolution Street in Tehran in 2017. It stood while the Colour Revolution swept through the former Soviet Union, through Eastern Asia, through the Middle East. And they will not give up easily. I would say that people in that theocracy this evening have taken note of what's been said here in Paris and in Berlin and in Albania, and will be sending out messages to their ambassadors, where embassies still exist, with lovely booklets explaining that Iran is a peace-loving country and that the situations that we heard about today from John Bercow and from others do not happen and are not happening and not allowed to happen. And that's the contradiction that you face here. So the end will come, believe me. You might not believe that, but when it comes, it will come suddenly and quickly. I know that from our country, and these people here know, we were colonised by Britain for 700 years and had revolution after revolution after revolution, a long bloody wait to become an independent republic, a democratic republic in the south of Ireland. And that caused a civil war, and that lasted for so many years afterwards. And in the late 60s and 70s and 80s, the Irish government and the government of Great Britain and Northern Ireland had to deal with terrorism for 30 years. A pseudo-terrorist war waged in Britain, in Northern Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, and indeed on the continent. And people said this cannot go on. And it was democratic governments. And it only ended after so many meetings held at night in so many places with so many back channels and different governments of the British government and the Irish government and Northern Ireland representatives of all the churches. And eventually, reason was had and a fragile peace was put in place in 1998, which still stands. And during the course of that terrorist activity, 3,000 people were butchered, maimed, blown up, disappeared, and horror every night of the week with the uncertainty that was happening there. So I think, Miriam, you've done a great job here, but this needs to be revved up because the regime are not going to give up. They are going to resist pressure as they have done for the last 50 years. And the tools of sorting this out are available. And the message to the people in Iran is that it takes courage and resilience, as Daniela has pointed out, it takes courage and resilience to decide that tomorrow you're going to discard the hijab and walk down the street when you risk, if you're a woman, being hauled into a van, being beaten up, or worse, or jailed. That takes courage. Ask yourself, in your own locality, how many people would do the same if you asked them tomorrow? And it's that courage and that resilience that will bring about an end to this theocratic regime. And they know it, and they're listening to it. And just as it took so long for the Berlin Wall to come down, when it happened, it was scenes of jubilation. When it happened that the ETA Spanish revolt ended, or the Colombia thing which went on for 50 years with the FARC. So I think that what you should look at, if I might suggest, the tools are all here. The United Nations has passed so many resolutions. No resolution brings about a change of regime. When these things have to be followed up, the High Commissioner for Human Rights at the United Nations, the European Parliament Committee for Foreign Affairs, the High Representative from the European Parliament to be appointed very shortly, dealing with this, and the Council of Europe dealing with human rights. This campaign has to be relentless. Not once a week, not once a month, not once every 6 months. Every day there should be contact with Iranian ambassadors where they are located around the world, from governments or parliamentarians, about another incident in Tehran or wherever. They've got to do it every day. And you, Miriam, your name and face have to be as well known as top most people around the world. That when she's in town, she's here on behalf of the Iranian people who want freedom and democracy in their own country. I think that it's obvious that sanctions haven't worked. For instance, the rial is still a low-based currency anyway, but it hasn't worked because you've had crypto, Bitcoin, shadow fleets, barter, shady deals, and corruption being endemic in the country. It's time now for a clear vision, decisiveness, and substance to deal with these matters once and for all. And the more that this regime, the more it oppresses people and represses them in Iran, the stronger will be the resistance to what's happening. And that's why it's critical that the message to the Iranian people is keep doing as you're doing, but the message to the Iranian diaspora worldwide is one to say you need to be implementing and assisting with authority from outside. I think the President of Moldova mentioned about the diasporic function. We have 5 million people at home, 75 million worldwide. They wield enormous influence, and they are all connected by local radio stations from the Republic or by national news or whatever else. They know what's going on in the country. The same should apply in Iran, which is a much bigger country than our small island. there are hundreds of millions of Iranian people worldwide. If this regime knows that every one of those people know that they're doing wrong, then the end becomes closer. You can never predict when something like this is actually going to happen. I looked there at young Parinaz, I wrote it down, with his mask, saying his piece on the video from Tehran. And what did he say? He says, "I do not want freedom to be a dream. I dream of freedom. But the point is that freedom should not be a dream, neither should opportunity and a life to be lived." It reminded me of the 10th day of June in 1963, shortly before John F. Kennedy was assassinated, when he spoke at the American University in Washington to young people and said among his remarks, "We all live on this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal. Good luck in your endeavours, whatever support the Irish people will give you. Having been colonised by John's crowd for 700 years, we'll see that the Iranian people get our support." Thank you very much. And that's the Ivory Coast.